There is a satisfying friction to the engagement of steel blades against newsprint, a tactile feedback that digital currency will never replicate. I was sitting in my wingback chair, the one with the velvet worn smooth on the armrests, carefully excising a coupon for ground coffee. 50 cents off. A guaranteed return on investment. In the world of finance, a guaranteed return is a unicorn, a myth told to retail investors to keep them feeding the machine. But here, in my living room, with the Sunday paper spread across my knees, it was reality. I aligned the scissors with the dashed black line. Snip. The sound was crisp. This was value. This was tangible. I placed the slip of paper into the repurposed butter tin on the side table. My grandson, Jason, calls it my poverty pot. He laughs at it. He laughs because he thinks wealth is a number on a screen, a string of pixels that glows green. He doesn't understand that pixels can be turned off. He doesn't understand that the only money you truly own is the money you can hold in your hand or the coffee it buys. I am 71 years old. To the neighbours, I am Bill, the retired mechanic who drives a beat-up Ford and wears flannel shirts that have survived 3 administrations. To my grandson, I am a relic, a stubborn old man who refuses to use online banking because I don't get the internet. That is the narrative I have carefully constructed. It is a firewall built to keep the world from asking me about 1984, about the code, about the architecture of the beast that now eats the world. I smoothed the newspaper, preparing to search for a deal on detergent, when the silence of the house was shattered. The front door didn't open. It exploded inward. The heavy oak slammed against the stopper, vibrating the floorboards. I didn't jump. I finished folding the paper. I knew who it was. Only one person enters a house with that much entitlement and that much panic. Grandpa, where is the God? Where is the power strip? Jason stormed into the living room. He looked like a GQ cover model who had just witnessed a murder. His Italian suit, a shark skin grey that probably cost more than my car, was wrinkled. His tie was loosened, the top button of his shirt undone, revealing a neck flushed with a stress rash. He was sweating, not the glow of exertion, but the cold, clammy sheen of terror. He was carrying a laptop under one arm and a portable server tower under the other, cables trailing behind him like the tentacles of a dying squid. "Hello, Jason," I said, my voice steady. "The power strip is behind the television, where it always is. Is your internet down again?" "The whole grid is down. The office is dark. The redundant lines are fried." He was shouting, his eyes darting around the room as if the furniture were attacking him. He dropped the equipment onto my dining table, my mahogany dining table, which I polished weekly, without a coaster. I winced. "I need your fibre line. You have the direct burial line, right? The one the county put in?" "I do," I said, "but I'm watching the news at 4. "Screw the news." He scrambled under the table, plugging things in with frantic, jerky movements. "Grandpa, this is the end. It's a bloodbath. You don't understand. Vanguardian is melting down. We are hemorrhaging. I need connection. Now." He surfaced, breathless, and hit the power button on his rig. It was an impressive setup for a child. A portable Bloomberg terminal, essentially. 3 portable monitors unfolded from the main chassis, glowing to life with the Vanguardian Capital logo, a shield and sword. Cute. Within seconds, the logo vanished, replaced by a wall of red. I stood up, my knees popping. I walked over to the dining table, stopping a respectful distance away. I didn't look at the screen initially. I looked at him. His pupils were dilated. His hands were shaking so badly he had trouble double-clicking the icon. "What is happening, Jason?" I asked. "The algo!" he spat, typing his password with a ferocity that threatened to crack the keys. "The black box. It went rogue. We opened at 9:30 a.m. and everything was fine. Volatility was low. Then, at 10:15, the bottom fell out. Not the market. Just us. Just our positions. We're losing $10 million a minute, Grandpa. 10 million. He pulled up the main dashboard. It was a chaotic jumble of tickers, graphs, and execution logs. To the untrained eye, it was static. To a broker, it was a disaster. To me, it was music. I stepped closer. 10 million a minute, I murmured. That's efficient. It's not efficient, it's suicide, Jason yelled, grabbing his hair. I can't stop it. The kill switch isn't responding. It's dumping our long positions in tech and shorting the S&P at the same time. It's a liquidity spiral. We're creating our own crash. I looked at the screen. I ignored the dollar amounts. The dollar amounts are distractions. They are the scoreboard, not the game. I looked at the waterfall, the raw data stream of orders executing in real time. It scrolled vertically, a matrix of buy and sell orders moving so fast they blurred into a streak of white light. Most people see the blur. I see the individual raindrops. I saw the bid-ask spread widening. I saw the volume spikes. Move, I said. I reached out to touch the mouse. Jason slapped my hand away. It was a reflex. He looked at me with a mix of pity and irritation. Don't touch it, Grandpa. Please. This isn't your checkbook. This isn't balancing a ledger. This is high-frequency trading. It's algorithmic logic. You wouldn't understand a single line of what's happening here. Go watch your shows. Make some tea. Just let me work. I withdrew my hand. I didn't feel insulted. I felt a grim sense of irony. You wouldn't understand, he said. I, who had sat in a windowless room in 1982 with a mainframe the size of a refrigerator, writing the very logic that gave birth to this chaos. I, who had defined what frequency meant before Jason was even a glimmer in his father's eye. It looks like a loop, I said quietly, clasping my hands behind my back. I leaned in, observing the flow. It's a glitch, Jason shouted at the screen, ignoring me. He was dialing a number on his cell phone. Pick up, Sterling. Pick up, you son of a bitch. He got through. He put it on speaker, his hands too busy typing override commands to hold the phone. Jason! A voice roared from the speaker. It was Sterling, the CEO. I recognized the voice, or rather I recognized the type. The boarding school accent, the arrogance masking a deep, hollow fear. Tell me you stopped it. Tell me we aren't insolvent. I can't stop it, Jason screamed back. The manual overrides are locked out. It's rewriting its own execution parameters. It thinks the market is crashing, so it's selling, which makes the market crash, so it sells more. It's a feedback loop, Sterling. We're being eaten alive. Is it a hack? Sterling demanded. Are the Russians in the system? Did you click a phishing link, you idiot? No, it's internal. The source code is... it's mutating. I watched the waterfall. I narrowed my eyes. The movement of the trades wasn't random. A glitch is random. A glitch is chaotic noise. This was a waltz. It was predatory. It was hunting. Specifically, it was hunting stop-loss orders. It would push the price down, trigger the automatic sell orders of other firms, buy them up cheap, and then dump them again to drive the price lower. It was beautiful, and it was terrifyingly familiar. It's not mutating, I said. Jason spun around, his face red. Grandpa, silence. I'm on with the CEO. Not a word. I ignored him. I pointed a calloused finger at the bottom left quadrant of the center monitor. The debug window. Lines of execution code were flashing by, mostly unintelligible to the modern eye, buried under layers of C++ and Python shells. But underneath the glossy interface, the bones were still there. The ancient architecture. Look at the latency, I said. It's front-running its own orders. It's not reacting to the market, Jason. It's predicting it. It waits for a millisecond pause in the exchange feed, inserts a phantom order, cancels it, and measures the reaction time of the other bots. Jason froze. He looked at the screen, then at the phone, then at me. What? What are you talking about? How do you know what a phantom order is? Because that's how you test the water depth before you dive, I said. It's looking for liquidity pools. It's thirsty. Sterling, Jason said into the phone, his voice trembling. My grandfather. He says it's front-running. Who gives a damn what your grandfather says? Sterling bellowed. Pull the plug. Physically. Rip the server out of the wall. I can't, Jason cried. It's cloud distributed. If I kill this terminal, it just hops to the backup nodes in Jersey. It's a Hydra. Hydra, I repeated. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. I walked around the table. I stood directly behind Jason's chair. The smell of his expensive cologne was souring with fear. Jason, I said, my voice dropping an octave. It is a Hydra. That is the correct designation. But it is not a virus. And it is not a glitch. Then what is it? Jason pleaded, typing ABORT_ALL into the command line for the 100th time, watching the command get rejected. Access denied. Level 5, clearance required. It's a logic trap, I said. Designed for a very specific market condition. Low volatility followed by a sudden high volume injection. It traps the liquidity. It thinks it is 1987. Jason stopped typing. The room went silent, save for the whirring of the laptop fans and the frantic breathing of the young man in the suit. On the screen, the red numbers kept ticking down. The portfolio value was now down 40%. 1987, Jason whispered. Black Monday? Open the source viewer, I commanded. I can't. It's compiled code. It's Control-Alt-F12, I said. Then tilde. Then type ghost. Jason hesitated. That's not a command. That doesn't do anything. Do it. The authority in my voice was not the authority of a grandfather telling a child to eat his vegetables. It was the authority of a general commanding a private. It was a tone Jason had never heard from me. He obeyed. His fingers flew. Control plus Alt plus F12. The screen flickered. A command prompt appeared. A stark black window in the middle of the graphical chaos. He hit the tilde key. He typed ghost. The screen didn't reject it. Instead, the cascading waterfall of red numbers vanished, replaced by a scrolling column of green text. It was raw code. Not the modern, object-oriented script Jason was used to. This was ancient, brutal, efficient, machine code mixed with assembly and archaic basic structures. Jason's mouth fell open. What is this? This looks like DOS. Scroll up, I said. Line 40. He scrolled. His hand was shaking so much the mouse cursor jumped. He found it. There, glowing in the center of the darkness, was a command that shouldn't exist in a modern high-frequency trading algorithm. A command that was considered heresy in 21st century programming. 40 Goto 10. If vol greater than 5 million, then execute Hydra. And below it, a comment line, a remark. Rem author, the architect. October 1984. Do not remove. Jason stared at the screen. He blinked. He read the line again. Then he slowly turned his swivel chair around to face me. The panic in his eyes had been replaced by a profound, disorienting confusion. Goto line 40, Jason whispered. Nobody writes Goto anymore. It creates spaghetti code. It breaks everything. It creates a loop that cannot be broken by linear logic, I corrected him. It creates a trap that keeps eating until the condition is met. The architect, Jason read the comment aloud. That's an urban legend. In a business school, they told us about the architect, the guy who built the plumbing for the Nasdaq. They said he died. He didn't die, I said, reaching into my pocket and pulling out my glasses. I put them on. They were cheap drugstore readers, but they clarified the green text perfectly. He just retired. He wanted to cut coupons and drink coffee. Jason looked at the screen, then at me. He looked at the flannel shirt, the worn-out slippers, the coffee tin, and then he looked at my eyes. He saw the reflection of the code in them. He saw that I wasn't reading it. I was remembering it. Grandpa? He asked, his voice barely a squeak. Why is your handwriting inside the Vanguardian mainframe? I sighed. It was a heavy sigh, the sound of a secret being exhaled after 30 years. Because, Jason, I said, stepping past him and placing my hands on the keyboard. I felt the keys. Plastic. Cheap. Not like the mechanical IBM switches I used to hammer on. But they would do. Because Sterling didn't buy a new algorithm. He stole an old one. He dug up the engine I buried because it was too dangerous to use. And he tried to put it in a Ferrari. You... Jason stammered. You wrote this? I wrote the world you live in, I said, cold, my fingers hovering over the keys. I built the floor you stand on. And right now, that floor is turning into a trapdoor. On the phone, Sterling was screaming. Jason, who are you talking to? What is Goto 10? We are down 60%. We are going to receive a margin call from the Fed in 5 minutes. Fix it. I leaned down toward the microphone. Hello, Sterling, I said. My voice was dry, like old paper. The screaming on the other end stopped instantly. The silence was absolute. Who is this? Sterling whispered. You're running the 1984 beta build, I said. I distinctly remember adding a README file that said, do not run on live markets. You never were one for reading the manual, were you, Arthur? Arthur? Jason looked at the phone. His name is Robert. His name is Arthur Sterling, I said. And in 1984, he was the junior analyst who fetched my coffee while I wrote the code that is currently bankrupting you. Bill? Sterling's voice cracked. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated horror. Bill. Oh my God. You're dead. Not yet, I said. But your fund is about to be. I looked at the screen. The loop was accelerating. The Hydra was hungry. It had sensed the fear in the market and now it was feeding. Jason, I said, get up. What? Get out of the chair. Grandpa, you don't know the interface. I don't need the interface, I said, shoving his shoulder gently. He stumbled out of the chair, looking at me like I was a stranger. The interface is for tourists. I need the command line. I sat down. The chair was too soft, too ergonomic. I missed the hard wooden stool of the lab. I cracked my knuckles. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "Grandpa," Jason said, standing behind me, "if you touch that code and it breaks, we go to jail. We lose everything." I looked at him over my shoulder. "You've already lost everything, Jason," I said. "You just haven't realized it yet. The money is gone. The numbers just haven't caught up to the math." I turned back to the black window with the green text. The cursor blinked. It was waiting. It recognized its creator. "Now," I whispered to the machine, "let's see if you still remember the ghost protocol." I raised my hands. The 50-cent coupon for coffee lay on the table next to the $10 million loss. I knew which one had more value, but for the sake of the boy, I had to fix the illusion. "Grandpa, stop! You're going to brick the kernel. You fix cars. You fix the transmission on my Honda. You don't know what a kernel is." Jason's voice was high, hysterical, the voice of a man watching a toddler play with a loaded handgun. He reached for the laptop lid, trying to slam it shut. I caught his wrist. I didn't squeeze hard, just enough to let him feel the bone, the tendon, the absolute lack of tremor in my hand. I didn't look up from the command line. "I fixed your transmission because the transmission is honest, Jason. It breaks when the gears wear down. It doesn't break because of speculation or greed. And before I fixed transmissions in a garage in Ohio, I fixed liquidity crises for the Federal Reserve. Now sit down and don't touch the mouse. The mouse is for tourists." I released him. He stumbled back, colliding with the bookshelf, knocking over a stack of National Geographic magazines from 1990. He didn't pick them up. He just stared, his mouth opening and closing like a fish on a dock. I turned my attention back to the beast. The cursor blinked. A steady green heartbeat in a sea of black. The Hydra loop was accelerating. On the peripheral monitors, the red graph was steepening, a sheer cliff of financial ruin. The fund had lost another $2 million in the time it took me to put on my glasses. The algorithm was front-running its own sell orders, creating a vacuum in the order book, then panic selling into the void. It was eating itself. It was the Ouroboros of Wall Street, automated and digitized. I cracked my knuckles. Protocol initiation. I didn't use the graphical interface. I didn't click on stop or cancel. Those buttons were connected to the main server logic, which was currently locked in a red right loop. Pressing them would only add to the queue, feeding the Hydra more data to process, making it faster. I had to go underneath. I had to go to the basement of the code, to the foundation I had poured 30 years ago. I typed cmd/root/access/override. Password. I typed the password. It wasn't a word. It was a mathematical constant I derived in 1982, a prime number string that served as the master key for the original NASDAQ routing architecture. 8675309 prime. A joke. A stupid joke I made when I was 40, listening to pop radio in a windowless server room. Access granted. The text on the screen shifted. The frantic scrolling of the execution logs paused for a microsecond, then resumed. The system was fighting me. It knew an intruder was in the core. "It's rewriting the firewall rules," Jason whispered, looking over my shoulder. He was reading the output now, his eyes scanning the raw data. "It's blocking your IP, Grandpa. It's going to kick you out." "It can't kick me out," I muttered, my fingers finding the rhythm of the keys. Clack, 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 clack. It was a staccato beat, a drum line. I'm not a user. I'm the operating system. I wasn't trying to stop the train. That was the mistake Jason and his team were making. You can't stop a high-frequency algorithm that has momentum. The inertia of the capital flow is too great. If you pull the plug, the unfulfilled orders hang in the ether, creating a dark pool liability that would bankrupt the firm in litigation alone. I had to switch the tracks. I had to convince the Hydra that it had already eaten. I opened a secondary command window. Subroutine. Ghost. "What are you doing?" Jason asked, his voice trembling but hushed. He was captivated now. The horror was giving way to the sheer spectacle of competence. "I'm feeding it," I said. "It wants volume. I'll give it volume, but not dollars. I'm going to feed it zeros. I'm going to route the cell orders to a null loop." I typed fast. "Define var. null_set equals 0. Redirect output greater than /dev/null. If execution_speed greater than 10 milliseconds, then goto ghost." The fan on the laptop screamed. The chassis grew hot under my palms. The processor was maxing out, trying to handle the contradictory logic. The algorithm was designed to seek profit. I was telling it that the ultimate profit was nothing. It was a paradox, a Zen Quan written in Fortran. "Come on," I whispered. "Take the bait, you greedy bastard. Take the bait." On the screen, the lines of code began to jitter. The Hydra was confused. It saw the massive injection of orders I was spoofing, billions of units of nothing. It lunged for them. It diverted its processing power from selling the actual portfolio to analyzing this new massive whale of a trade. Processing. Processing. Target acquired. "It took it," Jason breathed. "It locked onto the go signal." "Now," I said through gritted teeth, "we sever the head." I typed the final command. It wasn't code. It was a hard reset instruction for the logic gate, a command that existed only on the chips manufactured before 1990, but which the emulators still respected out of legacy necessity. Execute, halt and catch fire. I hit enter. I hit it hard. The plastic key groaned. The screen froze. The waterfall chart on the left monitor stopped moving. It didn't fade. It just stopped. The blur of white light resolved into static numbers. The red line of the portfolio value flattened out. It was a flat line. But a flat line is better than a freefall. The silence in the room was deafening. The laptop fan spun down. The hard drive clicked once, then settled. "It stopped," Jason whispered. He leaned in, squinting. "The trade volume, 0. The execution queue, empty. You killed it." "I put it to sleep," I said, leaning back in the chair. My back popped. My fingers ached. Arthritis. "It's a bitch." "If I killed it, the SEC would see the corpse. I just put it in a coma. It thinks it's still processing that infinite 0. The phone on the table, which had been silent for the last 3 minutes, suddenly erupted. Sterling. Jason flinched. He looked at the phone like it was a bomb. "What do I tell him? Grandpa, what do I say? He's going to want to know who the hell the architect is." I reached over and pressed the speaker button. "Jason!" Sterling's voice was different now. It wasn't the screaming of a tyrant. It was the shaky, breathless voice of a man who had just looked over a cliff edge and survived. "Jason, are you there?" "The dashboard. It's green. Well, it's flat, but it's not red. Who did that? The logs show a manual override from your terminal. But the syntax... My tech guys are saying it looks like alien writing. Who cracked the encryption?" Jason looked at me. He was pale. He was a 28-year-old boy in a suit he didn't earn, playing a game he didn't understand. He nodded at me. Take it. I cleared my throat. It was a dusty sound. Hello, Sterling, I said. There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. I could hear breathing on the other end. I could hear the background noise of a trading floor, shouting, phones ringing, the hum of commerce. But in Sterling's office, there was only silence. Who is this? Sterling asked. His voice was guarded, dangerous. Identify yourself. You're on a recorded line with a federally regulated financial institution. You can stop the recording, Arthur, I said. Or I can stop it for you. I still remember the admin codes for the voice logging servers too. Admin_voice_1985, wasn't it? The breathing on the other end hitched. Bill? Sterling whispered. The arrogance evaporated. Bill? Morrow? I haven't used that name in a long time, I said. I prefer Bill the mechanic these days. Or just Grandpa. It's impossible, Sterling stammered. You vanished after the 87 crash. The board said you had a breakdown. They said you moved to a cabin in Montana. We thought you were dead. I moved to the suburbs, I said. It's quieter, and the coffee is cheaper. You fixed it? Sterling asked. The Hydra? It was you? It was me, I said, and it was my code you were running. My beta test. The one I told you never to touch because it had a hunger problem. You dug it up, Arthur. You got greedy. You wanted an edge that didn't exist, so you raided the archives. I had to. Sterling's voice rose, defensive now. The market, the quants. They're too fast, Bill. We were losing edge. I found your old drives in the vault. The backtesting showed 400% alpha. I didn't know it would loop. I didn't know about the logic trap. You didn't know because you're a salesman, not an engineer, I said coldly. You drive the car. You don't know how the combustion works. Okay, Sterling said, rushing his words. Look, Bill, this is a miracle. You saved the firm. You saved me. We can work something out. A consulting fee. A massive one. Name your price. 5 million? 10? Just tell me how to keep it stable. Tell me how to turn it back on safely. I looked at Jason. He was staring at the phone, his eyes wide. $10 million. He looked at me, waiting for me to jump, to celebrate, to accept the golden ticket. I looked at the coffee tin on the table. I don't want your money, Arthur, I said. Your money's imaginary. It's leverage. It disappears when the power goes out. Then what do you want? Sterling sounded desperate. You have us by the throat. If the SEC sees that code, if they see we were running an unauthorized, non-compliant black box. Here are my terms, I said. My voice was iron. 1. You will wire the funds you recovered, the positions you front-ran before the crash, into a blind escrow account for the pension fund of the custodial staff at Vanguardian. All of it. The janitors, Sterling choked. The people who actually work, I said. 2. You will wipe the server. You will scrub my code. You will drill a hole through the hard drive and pour acid on it. If I ever see a Goto 40 command on a ticker again, I will release the source code to Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and Reddit. I will show the world that the great Vanguardian capital is running on a broken calculator from the Reagan administration. Okay, Sterling said. Done. I'll do it myself. Tonight. And 3, I said, looking at Jason. Jason resigns. Effective immediately, with a full severance package and a glowing letter of recommendation for any industry that is not finance. What? Jason mouthed, stepping forward. Grandpa, no. Yes, I said to him, covering the mic. Then back to the phone. Do we have a deal, Arthur? Or do I press enter and wake the Hydra up? Deal, Sterling shouted. Deal! Jason, you're out. Pack your desk. I'll wire the severance. Just don't release the code, Bill. I swear to God. Goodbye, Arthur, I said. Don't call this number again. I'm changing the carrier. I hung up. The silence returned to the living room. It felt different now. The air wasn't charged with panic. It was heavy with the aftermath of violence. The screen was still frozen on the green command prompt. Jason slumped into the chair I'd vacated. He looked defeated. He looked like a balloon that had been popped. Why? He asked. His voice was small. I was a portfolio manager. I was somebody. Why did you make me quit? I stood up. I walked over to the window and pulled the curtain back. The sun was setting. The street lights were flickering on. A neighbour was walking a dog. Real life. You weren't somebody, Jason, I said gently. You were a gambler. And you were gambling at a table where the house had rigged the deck 40 years ago. I turned back to him. You asked me once why I keep my money in a coffee tin. Why I don't invest. Because you're scared, Jason mumbled. No, I said, because I built the system. And I know that it isn't real. I walked over to the laptop. I typed one final command. Format C:/Y. Are you sure? Y/N. I looked at Jason. The code I wrote, it wasn't meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a stabilizer. We wanted to make markets efficient. We wanted to match buyers and sellers instantly, but we made a mistake. We forgot the humor element. We forgot fear. We taught the machines to be afraid, and they learned too well. I hit Y. I hit enter. The screen went black. Then a simple cursor appeared. Deleting. It's gone, I said. The architect is dead. Again. Jason looked at the black screen. He looked at his hands. So what now? I'm 28. I have no job. I have no career. You have a brain, I said. A good one. One that can process logic. Use it for something real. Build a bridge. Design a water filter. Write a book. Something that you can touch. Something that doesn't vanish when the Wi-Fi disconnects. I reached for the coffee tin. I popped the lid. The smell of old metal and paper coupons wafted up. I took out the slip I had cut earlier. You built all of this, Jason said, shaking his head in disbelief. The algorithms. The dark pools. You were the god of the market. And you gave it up to fix cars? I gave it up to sleep at night, I said. I buttoned my flannel shirt. I checked my pocket for my keys. I'm going to the store, I said. The A&P on Main Street. They have a sale on the Colombian roast. 50 cents off. I walked toward the door. I paused and looked back at him. He was sitting in the glow of the dying monitors, the reflection of the black screen making him look like a ghost in a suit. Are you coming? I asked. Or are you going to sit there and watch a blank screen? Jason looked at the laptop. Then he looked at me. He stood up. He loosened his tie. He pulled it off and threw it on the table, right on top of the millions of dollars of hardware. I'll drive, he said. No, I smiled. We take the Ford. The transmission is solid. I fixed it myself. We walked out into the cool evening air. I locked the door behind us. The millions of dollars, the panic, the high-frequency terror. It was all locked away in the dark. In my hand, I held the coupon. It was crisp. It was paper. It is real. Grandpa? Jason asked as we walked down the driveway. Yeah? Did you really hide a prime number in the Nasdaq routing code? I chuckled. It was a dry, rusty sound. Jason, I said, opening the door of my rusted truck. There are ghosts in the machine that have been singing since 1984. You just have to know the frequency. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. Not a hum, but a roar. Combustion. Pistons. Fire. Now, I said, putting it in gear. Let's go get some coffee. That is real value.